today we're gonna cover Outlook, and it is a little bit tricky when we start talking about Outlook. This is a very old application, 20 plus years old. Everyone has used it, and to some extent, so it's really hard in an hour to cover everything, especially now that we have the client and we have the web version. Almost everybody with Office licensing has access to it. So I'm gonna do my best to cover some of the best tips I have that I think have been helpful to a lot of the clients I worked with. So I'm going to go over the Outlook application, the client. I'll show you a few tips. This is not going to be a demo. I'll do it through the PowerPoint, but then the demo will be heavily on the web application side to show you how powerful it is. I personally have switched to using the web only application from the Outlook client. It takes so much of my laptop's memory. It could be heavy sometimes, depends on what you do. For me, I have too many accounts, so I'd rather use the web version and I can switch easily between all of them. And then we'll have time for Q&A at the end. But it will be quick, where I'm going to go over a lot of different features as I get into the web application. Now, in terms of accessing this is very similar to a lot of other presentations I had where I showed what tools and how you can access it. Outlook really can be accessed from anywhere. You have the desktop app, you have from the web, you can access it from any browser because there's a URL, but also on your phone. All phones are compatible with Outlook. Even if you don't have the Outlook app, you can just log in from your Safari or Chrome. Now, this is also managed by your organization. So what I'm saying is usually the general policy. A lot of organizations do have specific policy for using Outlook on your phone and even from the web browser on your phone. So keep that in mind. If it doesn't work, you might need to follow your organization's instructions on how to get access to it. The left-hand side, like just from your computer to access it, is something that's the client. That's when I say the client, I mean the Outlook application that you have installed on your device. But then the web is when you go to your Safari, Chrome, or any browser, use Edge, and access your email by going to Outlook web browser. All right. Next, this is a just quick start guide. I'll send this over as well after, but it is available online if you just Google Outlook Quick Start Guide by Microsoft and other places. But it's important to know what everything means, every side of your Outlook client. So now we're starting with the Outlook client. They're trying to move things around a lot. And I do also like to give a little bit about the history of the product, not just dive into it. So Microsoft is making a lot of changes to the client, and you probably have noticed in the last few years how there were a lot of shifts. If your organization is also an early adopter to some of those and they're doing updates regularly, you might be seeing a lot more changes than others. They're moving things around because they want it to look very similar to the web application. The ultimate goal by Microsoft is just use the web. Why do we have the client and the web? Now, I'm not saying that they're going to get rid of it in the next years or even 5 years. It's going to be around, but to save money for some organizations, they're telling them just use the web app rather than using the client. And it's very powerful and robust. You don't need the client. So if they make it look the same with very, very similar features, then users are more likely to use the web application. It can go the other way around because there are some users who are web only. It's specifically in education. A lot of students come out to go to college and they're using the web application of Outlook. Then they go to the workforce and they have the Outlook client. Now, making it look very similar and in terms of look and feature, then that's good for Microsoft. So that's where they're headed, and that's why we're seeing a lot of these changes in the client. But from a navigation perspective, just make sure you understand the top navigation ribbon and what it does and how you can switch to view, to change your view, send and receive messages. On the left hand side, you can switch between things, and that can be moved to the bottom still, where you can switch between mail, calendar, contacts, and so on. And then the left hand side, navigation. The middle is where your emails on the right. All of that can be changed from the view section. So I don't want to spend more time on this. We're very familiar with Outlook overall. So I'm going to get into some tips and new features in the Outlook client. So the first one I wanted to include that over the last 10 years to this day, I still get the voting button. And it's one of my least favorite things to see in an email is the voting button. It's just not user friendly. It's not. A lot of times I miss it. They tell me vote if you like pineapples on pizza or not, and I keep forgetting that there's I have to go to the top and vote. If you've used the voting button, you know what I'm talking about. So Microsoft recently, not very new, but it's been around for a bit. They keep improving it. There were some bugs in that feature that I noticed when it first rolled out. Now it's a lot more robust. If you have an Office license, then you have this, and you need to be logged in with your Office work or school account. But you can actually add a poll to your email that looks like this using Microsoft Forms, and the data is saved in Microsoft Forms rather than sending the users the vote button and getting a bunch of email replies with yes, no, pineapple, no pineapple. So that's really nice way of and a user friendly way of sending those surveys. You can even after you send it modify it because this is saved in Microsoft Forms, so you can if you messed up something you can actually modify it. The users will see the new version on their end. You can view the results and you can vote right away. So to get to it, you just go start a new email. You need to create a new email, and then in the insert tab you should see poll, and then you can add a bunch of options. You can add multiple answers to a question and allow users to toggle between them. There are a lot of settings that you can manage as well. So this is the first feature I wanted to talk about. The second one, you probably have played around with it, sorry, but may not used it. If you use it, this is awesome. I use it in a lot of my repetitive jobs where I get a lot of questions that are repetitive. Users ask me the same things over and over again. So it's called Quick Parts. It's usually on the top under the insert section, so you can use this one basically to send. If you have the same email that you send the content again and again and again, then this is what you need. What you have to do is, let's say, the thing that you always send all the time, you put it in an email, then you highlight it, and then save the selection into the quick parts gallery. I have the steps here. So you see how I have the email written? You highlight it, go to quick parts, save selection to quick parts gallery. These are the steps. Now, once you do that, next time you have an email asking the same exact question, all you have to do is go into that same button that says quick parts, and then you can add you can add that saved text into your new email. It's as simple as that. You can have as many as you want, and you can fill it out. Some people use it for additional signature. I've seen that. I've used it a lot in my training sessions. So when I finish a training session, I want to reply to all my attendees. So I have the same format for an email saying thank you for attending this training session. Here's how you can find more information about the video. It's the URL to the stream site internally within the organization that I'm doing the training session for, and so on. So all I have to fill in is the title of the invite or what the topic was, and it gets sent. So it really saves you time if you don't want to put them in OneNote, and the formatting will be saved. Everything will be saved the way you want it. So it's really powerful tool if it's used correctly, and if you remember it. A lot of times I forget about it even, but also I switched to the web version, so it's not as useful for me there. Okay, so the next one is quick tips. So quick, oh, sorry, didn't go to the next page. Here you go. So another Outlook client tip here is the quick tips. So they quick steps. Sorry, they you already by default have a bunch of quick steps usually on the top of your Outlook. So if you look on top, you should see them. And these are the default ones that are safe for you. It's supposed to help you with repetitive tasks that you and actions that you take on emails that you receive. So, for example, when you get an urgent email from one of your colleagues, but it's after work hours, but you saw it, then you want to flag that and then change the status to high importance and send a reply saying I'll get back to you tomorrow. These are four steps that might take 30 seconds, and you might have a lot of these. So what you can do is instead of doing it over and over and over again, you just need to use this feature. It's in the home tab in the Outlook app, and you can create a new quick step rather than using the default one. And you can tell it, I want this step. In here, you can see the step guides is down. You can tell it, I want the first action to be to flag this message. The second action I want it is to reply to this user saying I'll get back to you tomorrow. The third action you can say move it to a folder that is to do or some other folder that you have. So you can really customize. It's more of an automation way built in without having to create rules and other things. You do need to click that button. The one way I use it the most personally is to move emails to folders. So I have a bunch of folders on the left hand side of my Outlook client. And then if I get an email related to client A or client B, then I know this needs to go to this folder. So I have a shortcut saying move it to this folder and mark it as read. So two actions, very quick. And I also, you can add shortcuts. So you can say control shift and one of the numbers from 1 to 9. You can say if I click on that, then it will automatically, as a shortcut, move it to the folder or take that action. So an action can also be a shortcut that you have. You can create, as you can see on the right hand side, there are a bunch of other options: forward as an attachment, create a meeting, and there's a lot more ways you can use those quick steps. All right. The next thing I have here is um, distribution groups. So I might have seen someone talking about shared mailboxes in the chat, but we'll get to that later. I don't think this is really related, but distribution groups, I've worked with so many different organizations and it's managed differently. This could be helpful to some and not to some other organizations, but a lot of distribution lists are managed by the organization. You can open a ticket and ask them to create it, or they allow you to create your own distribution list that can be added to the address book. But you can also create your own distribution list that is personal. The users will see it as individual contacts, not necessarily as a group. There's no uh, mailbox necessarily associated with this one. But for you, if you always email the same 10 people, but just you do it, they don't do it necessarily, then you can create your own distribution group. And that, if enabled, you can do it from the people tab on your or the contacts tab in the people section, and then create a new contact. And in the new contact, you need to select new contact group. That's the drop down. I have the new version of Outlook. For some people, it's not in a drop down, it's on the right hand side. So depends what version you have. So once you click on contact group, then you can name it. After you name it, you can start adding team members or external folks to it. You go to your email, type in that name, and voila, you have all these email addresses added in one button. And then you can remove any that you don't want to see. All right. Now, the last thing to talk about some shortcuts. Shortcuts, there are a lot of shortcuts that you can use within um, Outlook client, and it's really, really valuable. And that's kind of they're different between the Outlook client and the web app in some cases. So I would recommend that you take a look into them. You can. I forgot. There's a shortcut to tell you what the shortcuts are. I think it might have been control. I should have added it as one of the tips, honestly. But control, maybe forward slash, the one next to the dot. If you click that, I think it shows you all the shortcuts. But that's what it is on the website, on the OA. But these are really helpful ones that allow you to quickly. These are the most common also within Outlook. Allows you to navigate the application very well. I like the reply and forward. I use this a lot. I know it's a button right there, but if you're someone like me that uses the keyboard a lot, then this would be really nice to use. One thing I want to call out that I actually do not like about this is send email message, control enter. There's so many times I'm like typing something, I use the control for some reason or the shift, I hit the control and I'm just entering a new line and I send the email. Usually it pops up telling you, for if you're using it the first time, oh, you're about to send an email and you can hit cancel. But control enter, be careful with that one. That's about it for the what I have for the client side. I did want to only spend 15 to 20 minutes on it, and I want to move on to the web version. I really want to show you. Stick around because there's really a lot of cool features that I want to show you on the web app, and it's something when your client is not working, you're gonna need that. You need to go to your browser and access your email somehow. And I guarantee you, all of you at some point had this issue where your mail cannot be received, and this spinning thing at the bottom of Outlook is spinning, telling you trying to send and receive email, or you're trying to refresh, or you called your IT department. All of that is not a problem when you know how to use your OA, and that's what I want to show you next. So, any questions? Let's take a break here in between. See if there's anything specific to the client you want to ask about, or about the things we talked about so far.
It does look, excuse me, it does look like there were a couple questions. Patrick Taft said, I have a group using a shared mailbox, and we're seeing a lot of instances of collisions where two people are working the same email at the same time. I'm looking for some settings or tools to alleviate this.
Yeah, this is it's been a problem for years. Also, group mailboxes, multiple people, and I've seen companies say, "I'm going to start at the bottom, you start at the top." Flagging it sometimes help. I've seen some teams flag the email by the name of the person has different color, a different flag associated with them, but you run into the issue, what if it doesn't sync right away and update? But if you use OA, then that's not a problem. But anyway, that's one way. Is another thing I saw is they move it into folders. So they create a folder per team member, and they would go into that folder and only work from that folder. And the last thing I've seen is rules. If you've used rules in the past, and I know I didn't show it here because it would be a whole hour session, rules can be used. So when you receive an email to a group mailbox, you say, move it to a specific folder. And so this way it's automatically being moved, and people only work, and everybody would have the same rule in their Outlook. So they're seeing only everything in the folder. So that those are some ideas. I definitely would need to sit and see what that team is doing, because and how many emails they're getting. Is it a lot that it's hard to manage using rules or moving it to folders? I've seen teams use. I actually helped with the implementation of that one as well, where they use Microsoft Planner tasks. It was very interesting. It worked out, but every time an email is sent, they receive it in the group mailbox. They used not instead of rules, they used Power Automate to take that email and save it into a planner dashboard where created a task and assigned it to one of their team members. Now, if I had to go back in time and change this, I would create a SharePoint list where you can list things and mark them to users maybe. But that's another way, a workaround that they try to use. Um, Maybe you can forward it to the individual to their inbox saying you work on this, but it is hard, and I do understand how it could be difficult. There are too many different ways that this could be managed. I hope, Patrick, this helps.
Yeah, he said he's tried
Look,
rules, and they do flag and move emails of
yeah,
more than two people in the inbox. We end up with overlap. One thing you mentioned, Kamal, is with OA, which is everyone listening, and Kamal's already mentioned it, but it's the Outlook web app. You mentioned that wouldn't be a problem. Why would that change things?
because it's more live and updating quickly than your client. One, two. The problem with that, you need to have E3, E5 license. But I'm assuming if they're using the client and they do have E3, E5 license, because F licenses and others do not allow you to have group mailboxes. That's because you don't have the client. So it's the same thing. So yeah, there the updates are more frequent. You can use Microsoft or Office groups, which is a lot more powerful than using the GMBs, group mailboxes. So um, give it a try. We're gonna move over now to the web. I unfortunately don't have a group to show you. Maybe I have a group 365 that I could show you, but it updates very quickly. So if you read an email and I'm flagging it, it will instantly show for the other users. So
Cool. Awesome. All right, so I'll just talk about this one observation. Then we got some more questions. We'll cover once you get closer to the end or whenever you open it up for questions again. One observation from Peter is he said that if you try the new Outlook, if you enable try the new Outlook, the layout looks very similar to the OA. So
yeah.
just like you were saying, where Microsoft's trying to make this transition easier, the new Outlook is looking even more like the web Outlook. So if anyone lost right now, as Kamal was mentioning, there's the Outlook application, and then there's the web
Mhm.
Outlook. Web application, the actual application, they're trying to make more and more like the web to make the transition easier, because inevitably that's probably where things are going to go, but maybe not.
Yeah. And but I want to give a disclaimer with this one because I've had many clients complain about this one. On Mac, it's phenomenal, but on Windows, there's something missing. They're working on it, but on Windows, when you do the enable new Outlook, it looks and feels the same. It's caching a lot of data right away and instantly from the browser, so it could slow things down a little bit because they're trying to build everything in one place, and there's some missing features. But give it a try. This could be where for your users, you're keeping the same Outlook client that they're using with a little bit of change into the layout, but it's getting the work done because it's cached instantly and it's online, basically. So um, keep that in mind. Give it a try. Is it good the screen? Should I zoom in a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Let's see if I could. I minimize it here a little bit. All right, this is OWA. Welcome to the OWA world if you haven't used it. If you are a user of OWA, congratulations. You're ahead of most people. This is the one app that, with 90% of the Microsoft licensing, you have access to it. Whether it's the cheapest to the most expensive one, you will have access to the from free to the most expensive one. Users have access. The only place where you don't have access to it. If you don't have, if you a Microsoft email, let's say you're on G Suite and you have just the Office products like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook, then you're not gonna need this because you don't have access to it. And I just want to also call out one thing I didn't mention: the Outlook client. You don't need to have a Microsoft license to use it. The Outlook client can be used on in a G Suite organization. I've seen a lot of clients that have G Suite, but they purchase the Office Pro Plus is what it used to be called, and it's basically the desktop, the enterprise apps. So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote Access, but then they get Outlook as well. So some users are like, I want to connect my Gmail to it. You can do that. Not the case with the online version because this is more specific to Microsoft, and you need to have a Microsoft account, whether it's your live.com or your organization account, so personal or work or school. I'm showing you my work account, my demo tenant. So um, this is what you're saying. This is this very similar layout. I really enjoy using the web app. I have it bookmarked in my browser, so every time I launch Edge, I have multiple tabs that open right away. As you can see, I'm navigating between my OneDrive. I had my presentation here on this side, my to do, and a lot of other things. These are usually on the left hand side. Microsoft has been playing around with the layout a lot just to see the user behavior and how they're clicking on these buttons. Your organization, if it's early adopter into the online features, then they might see you might see things a little bit different, or if you are not, then you also might see different features. But for the most part, the navigation, if it's on the left or at the bottom for you, you can navigate the same way as your client between the top three things, which is your mail, your calendar, and the contacts, the people. However, on the client, you have your tasks, I think it's called. Here, you have to do, but to do is nicer because it's the web version of um, it's to do. We had a presentation on it as well. You can There are some features that I'm going to show you where you can use to do, and it's really nice. You can access it by opening a new tab. You can click on it and go directly to it, and you can see all the actions that you have and all the to do items that you have for the day and the future and so on. And then you have the navigation on top that is also very similar between home, view, help, and some actions that you can take. The quick steps are actually here as well, and then you can manage them. And at the bottom, you can navigate between all the tabs of your email. So if I start replying to an email, as you can see here, I see a bunch of tabs here at the bottom. We'll get more in details in a second, but I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the layout. And you can change that view by going to the view section and changing how it's displayed for you here. I'm keeping it that way. This is the most common way of using it. On the left hand side, you got the groups. And as I mentioned, Patrick, I unfortunately don't have a group set up here because I wasn't planning on talking about it. But you can use and create a new office group in here, or you can manage existing groups. So if you already have um, a GMB created, you should be able to see it on the left hand side under groups and try to manage it that way. Now let's start by looking at the settings. So because it's now you're in the web, you can see your profile. This is my account, my email. I can view it. This is the same as you go across all the Office applications. And then on the top left hand side, you can access all your Office applications right there. Rather than switching between the client and this, you have access to everything here. If you click on this gear at the top right, this is your settings, and from there you can manage all your settings. The old version, there's a button that says View All Outlook Settings. If you still have that, you just need to click on View All Outlook Settings. For me, I'm already there. They changed the layout for me a little bit, and you can get to the general settings, mail, calendar, and people. From there, the first thing is the layout. A lot of people, it's mixed feelings on the focused inbox. Those that are in marketing tend to really hate the focused inbox. Those who are in more like on the technical side, they love this because it kind of filters out a lot of the automated messages that they get from their system. So I like the focused inbox versus the other, so I keep it that way. By default, I think it's do not sort my messages. I like to change it to the two inboxes. I hope you're by now familiar with it, but basically the focus is Microsoft's AI telling you that we think these are the most important. They're targeted to you. Your email was typed in it. The other is usually if it's a marketing email or a spam email, it tends to go there. So if you've used Yammer or Viva Analytics or any of these tools from Microsoft, even they tend to go to the other inbox.
Yeah,
You can,
I just want to make a point on that. Like, it's amazing how good Outlook is at filtering that. Like, their AI kills it because every time something's in my focused, it's something I need to focus on. Every time something's in my other, I don't need to focus on it. I don't know how they do it. It kind of blows my mind, but it is spot on. So it
Yeah.
saves so much of my time when it comes to email. I might only check email like once a day now
Yeah.
already, and I already don't want to do that because it's just a productivity killer. But that's been great. Like that's if anyone that's not using Focus Inbox, it's going to be weird at first. Try it. You're going to love it. And just, you check your other too, but most of the time you can just select them all and delete most of the time.
Yep. And it learns. So it learns from your behavior. So if you're always deleting, I get those Microsoft Teams reminder that I didn't reply to an email because I personally have it set up to notify me instantly when someone messages me. I read the title, it's like, oh, this person pinged me on Teams, delete. And now they all go to the other because I keep deleting those emails. Same thing with a lot of different emails that I get. It looks at my behavior. I have ServiceNow as well. So I've used that, and every time I move them to a folder, I don't read them. I'm not spending enough time on them. They learn that this guy does not care about those emails. Let's just move them to the other inbox. And like you said, Tahir, it's spot on. So
Yeah,
with
and what
that,
I've been noticing because of that is all of my emails now go to other. No, I'm just joking. I'm just kidding. I'm
if you're not reading anything,
not reading any of it. No.
explains why I sent you 5 emails. Now I'm
Yeah.
joking. Uh, the second thing I really like, and this is to me, that was the seller for a while, is this feature. If you click on compose and reply and then scroll down to the undo send, I'm telling you, I tried an Outlook client to look everywhere for this feature. I looked at the settings, I Googled, I even reached out to Microsoft. How can we get this into Outlook? It doesn't. There's not an easy way to doing it in Outlook client, but it is available for you now if you use. Oh, well, this is especially helpful to me in the morning because I haven't had my coffee yet and I send an email and I realize I shouldn't have sent that email within seconds because your brain is a little bit slow in the morning. But you can say delay it 5 seconds. That's not significant time where it's a minute, because I think in Outlook the only way you can do is schedule time, but like if you do it every time it gets annoying to schedule it a minute or 5 minutes advance. This is literally just 5 to 10 seconds. So let's do 5 seconds so I can show you this. But it's really nice because every time I send an email now when I'm in OA, I get a kind of at the bottom, I see the undo button. So let me save it. I'm going to create a new email and let's send it to anyone, myself potentially, and hit the send. Now you see this sending. I still have 5 seconds. Undo. This now didn't send. It went back into my inbox, and I have the ability to edit it again. It happened way more than I would like to tell you. So that is the feature that made me really switch to OA. So I hope it helps. 5 or 10 is the only option you get with this one. The next one I want to talk about now within your email. So you'll notice me go feature after feature. We have only 15 minutes left. And if you have questions at the end, ping them and we can talk about it. So does the undo feature sync to client setting? No. That's why it's only in OA. And that's why I really enjoy using OA is because of that specific feature. So I don't know why Microsoft could not do it on the client side. Maybe their settings is too difficult, but it doesn't work. If you see this arrow here at the left, by default they have conversation set up. So if you want to go between all the emails that were sent, click on that drop down arrow. That chevron icon allows you to go down and see all the emails that were sent and by who, because you know how sometimes the replies get messed up. If you started drafting an email, I really enjoy that part, is when I start drafting an email and then someone else replies to that same email, you can also navigate it that way. Very similar to the client, but there's that little arrow that you need to click on so you can see all of them. You can even flag only a specific part of that message rather than all of it. So see there's the flag right here. So I'm only flagging that reply or the draft that I have rather than all of it. All right. In terms of shortcuts on this one, it's actually control question mark. So it is the shift forward slash or question mark, and you can get to see all of the shortcuts that they have on the Outlook web app. There are quite a few of them that if you want to use. The quick steps are very similar to the ones also on the desktop. Keep in mind, sometimes your computer will override some of these, depends on where your mouse is selected. So if there are a computer shortcut that overlaps with, or a web browser shortcut, it might not work. That's something I've noticed. But I quickly like to navigate between my tabs. Did not work. See, that's where navigation in using shortcuts sometimes doesn't work because your browser in this case um, took over. It froze. Anyway, but that's how you get to your shortcut. Shift question mark, and you can see all the shortcuts that are available to you in oh well. Let's continue a little bit with settings. So some organization allow you to customize things more than others, especially the um, layout, I would say. So in terms of the colors and the appearance, it's under general appearance. In some cases, if you just click on settings, you can see all the modes that you have available to you and the colors and the themes. Some organization only allow that top part where you can go dark or light for accessibility reasons, but they want to keep their branding for the organization branding, so they don't allow you to change the theme. But if they allow you, these are some cool ways to change it. I usually have it on dark mode. I reset it now for this demo, but I like the dark mode a little bit more than the light mode. The light mode is the more common, so I'm going to keep it that way for this session. All right. Another thing in settings, let's go back to mail. The customize actions. So when you are in an email, there are a few things here that you can customize. The quick action bar, which is the one on top, these are the default ones. You can add an archive button so you can quickly archive an email, or move to folder button that allows you to move, and then you can select which folder you want to move the email to. This is just basically changing how things are displayed. So it's telling you at the moment, next, if you hover over an email, these are the three things that you see. These are the quick actions that you have. If you open an email, so you double click on an email and you open it or you select it, as of now, I only see these five options, which is reply, reply all, forward, forward as attachment, which I can disable because I don't ever forward as an attachment. Send to OneNote, I do that quite a lot. I have an email and I just want it to put it in OneNote. So you can customize these on the email, which in on the client side, you get display a bunch of things, but it's really hard to manage those in a very nice UI. You can do it on the top left ribbon if someone's thinking about that, but you can't do it within the email because you see everything. So I like this because I can tell it now I'm gonna add to this reply by IM, because I tend to usually go back to the user and message them. You can add the flag. Maybe if you get a lot of junk emails, you can do that. Open in a new window. So everything I'm adding now in a second, you'll see it added. Viva Insight, that's a cool one as well. You'll see it added into the message surface, where if I click on an email, I'll see all of these. All right, let's close out of this. Go back to one of my emails, this one that I was just working on. And as you can see now, let me go to an older email and show you how some of these things now changed. Oh, the pop-up is not showing. Okay, but yeah, because I popped it out. I'm only sharing this part of my screen, but trust me, all of these will show up the way it was showing in terms of the actions. The next thing I want to talk about is sending emails. In here, you can do the same thing as Outlook. That's similar, where you can schedule a send. In Outlook, however, the issue I see is when you schedule something to send on the client, then you need to be logged in, connected. Your computer is not locked and online, and Outlook is running. Otherwise, it's not gonna send. That's from my experience. However, in this case, because it's on the web, you can schedule a send, select the date and time that you want to send it using the custom time, and then hit send. This will allow you to send it maybe tomorrow. You don't need to be online. You can just close out of everything and it will do it because it is using the web. With the client, that doesn't work. You need to be still, you keep your computer unlocked. From my experience, that's how it, 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 it works. So I really like this feature, and I like to tell people that's why there's a drop down next to the send button. So take a look at it. All right. So back to the settings here. There's the search on the top left. So if there's something that I failed to mention and you want to see if you can also find here, then you can definitely search it. So I'm gonna give you an example: automatic replies. You want to set up an automatic reply, you can have that as well using. I just searched for it and it popped up that setting item. I can turn on automatic reply, select date and time. Same thing as Outlook client. You can set up internal and external, and select the time frame that you want the automatic reply to send. In my opinion, think this is more robust than the client one. It does sync. You don't have to set it up on both sides, but you only need to do it in one place. I like this version because sometimes I forget to set up my auto reply. So I go on my phone, I log into the Outlook app, and I have the message that I need to already saved, and I just enable it, and I get to send the automatic reply. All right, let's get more into some of the email features that we have in here. So I'm gonna look at this email. It's from Microsoft reminder for um, me to send. I have some open AI stuff. Let's see what else I have here. You see how all the actions that I added, they're shown here on top. Anyway, so the next one I want to show you is a little bit more features here on the ribbon on top. So you see this icon here, the clock. If I maximize this a little bit more, it might display it exactly what it is. But this one is, I like this snooze feature. So sometimes um, an email is important, but sometimes this not in that exact moment. Like you want to look at it, but you're busy doing other things, and you don't want to multitask. So this one allows you to. It reminds you to look at this again later, not at this moment. But if you get a lot of emails, this might be a really cool feature that you can use. So you can click on snooze and tell me later today at 1 p.m. There's some default ones. Snooze it. It's gone, right? So this email is not gonna show up in your inbox, but at 1 p.m. I'll receive this email again. So that's the snooze feature, and you just gotta click on that snooze button, select the email, and click on the snooze button and select the time you want to actually receive that email. Another similar thing that gets me very distracted sometimes is that when you have this huge thread of emails, right? Now goes back and forth, and you're not related to it, but your manager or someone decided to copy you on it. Or in some cases, it could be a communication or an outreach email that has a bunch of follow-ups. Let's say 5, 6, 7, 10. I've seen a lot more follow-ups for something that I don't care about. And every time I get a new email, it pops up on top. Like, leave me alone. So what you can do is you can, if it's a thread like this one, you can right click and ignore. So when you click on ignore, it's telling you this will delete all the messages selected for that conversation, and it will just not show up anything else that will, anyone that will reply will go directly into your trash because you don't need it. I highly recommend using it in more of communication threads that you definitely know you don't need. Sometimes automated messages from the system, you're already looking into it, or you know you're not going to need it, then you can do that. and those messages will just go into delete. And as you can see, when I right click, there are a lot of things. We'll get into some of them, but there are a lot of features also when you right click on an email. All right, we looked at a lot of customization here. By default, you have that flag a message, which you can use to flag a message, and then you can get into all your flagged items. I'll show you here in a little bit, but you can mark any emails with a flag so you can easily find it. So now I clicked on this one. I have multiple ones that are flagged. I think there might be at the bottom. I'm going to select this one and this one. Now, how do you quickly get into them and find all the flagged emails? There's a filter button here on top, and you can just click on flagged, and you'll see all your flagged emails. Similarly, you can do that filter for has files, mentions, and so on. And you see how quick it is. I don't have any mention. No one wants to talk to me. But this at least allows you to do some really, really quick filtering. That is, in my opinion, is a lot faster and easy to access than the client. If you notice at the top here, I have a couple of emails that no matter how many people email me, they will continue to show up on top. So these are the pinned emails. So I pin them. I want to always see them on top. This could be something important. It could be something that you need to see all the time, but you can pin it. Maybe something that a password, or maybe not a password. That's not a really good example, but something that you always need to look at. That would be really helpful to do. Let's see what else. I talked about email signature. Also, email signature allows you to do a lot of customization, which is really nice on this side of things, just like the Outlook client. If someone is bothering you, let's take a look at this. Let's find Tahir's email here. If he's bothering me with this, I can ignore future. I can block. Block the sender. Never block a sender will allow you to always make sure that this is a safe sender. So you can add a lot of the settings here by simply right clicking on any of the emails that you're getting. There's the junk also. I don't know if it's showing here, but report as junk will basically tell that this is a safe sender, but it's like just take it to the junk inbox. All right, let's see. There's one more feature I have in my notes here I wanted to talk about is also forwarding. You can set up automatic forwarding if your organization has enabled this one. And I want to emphasize on the if, because the majority of organizations tend to turn off forwarding, but you can also do that if you manage multiple inboxes. Just select enable and then type in the email. And keep a copy of a forwarded message is something I like to do, because if you don't click on that button, your inbox will be empty. So unless you want that and you never want to come back and see anything in this inbox, then just go ahead and uncheck that box. They also have the rules here, inbox rules, which is very similar to the one that we have on the client side. So you can add the new rule, name it, and then add conditions and exceptions. So it's also a cool way of doing it. If you have if you have one condition but you want to take multiple actions on this one, then you can add as many. I don't know how many. Is there a limit? I actually don't know if there's a limit on how many actions you can take. But it sounds like I was able to add 4 different actions right now. Let's exit out of this. Let's go to compose a new email, see what features we have here. If you click on the 3 dots, I said that in many other presentations I had, is when you click on the 3 dots, you tend to see a lot more features than you have expected. So the top ribbon of the message, all the typical ones that you also have on the client side. You can add your signature, important email, add mentions, add add-ons. Now it depends where you select, these will show up. See, because I'm in the body of the email now, the loop showed up. If you were in the Teams advanced team session, we talked about what this is. This is the same thing added here. But let's say I click on the three dots. There are a lot more options. The polls, which is using Microsoft um, Forms. There's Viva Insight and a lot of other things that you can use. Your templates will also show up here. Um, the one thing I wanted to show up here, I'm blanking now, was message options, more options here. Request read receipt. So that is also available on the site. I've had people ask me in the past, "Oh, you can't do that." Well, no, you can do it. You just it's for Microsoft's sake. They like to hide things sometimes, but it's like the three dots, and you get to go to more options. Then you can request read receipts on that email or delivery receipt if you want. Whatever options you normally select on the client, you can do the same thing on this site. Um, the poll, we talked about this. There's the poll. I'll be honest with you. I've never used scheduling a poll. It sounds like something where you can schedule a poll ahead of time. For an email, I've only used a poll that utilizes Microsoft. Oh, okay. See, I learn sometimes as I go with Outlook because they keep adding features and they update it as I go. Like sometimes tomorrow I log in and there's an update. Unlike the client, you have to actually do the update and restart your computer and the app. This one it just shows up, and that's a scenario where it's probably have been there for a while. I just always go over it. I tend to just use this first one because it uses Microsoft Forms and I'm very familiar with everything and it gets saved into my Microsoft Forms. All right, now I'm going to get a little bit more into the email. In the last 5 minutes I have, the at mention is really cool. You can at mention someone. If that person was copied on an email and then you at mention them, it will move it into the to section. I really like at mention. And if everybody also used um, Outlook on the web, there are a lot of other features. Let me try to find another email, Tahir's email. I'll pick on it again. There are a lot of features that you could also use from here that may not be available to you on the desktop. So if I go into this email, this was undeliverable, and I highlight your message to admin could not be delivered. You can see that I got four new options here. So what are these? The first one is highlight. The second one is add a note in your note in OneNote. So if I click on this one, it will launch OneNote and I can add a note related to that message that I highlighted. So that's one cool thing. Then my favorite though is, I'm gonna highlight again, is the reply. People get so confused on how I did that, but if I hit reply, it will draft a new message. And I can say per the below note, or you can highlight something instead of. I see a lot of people go back to an older email and say, "See my notes at the highlighted in red." You don't need to do that. Just highlight it. Highlight what you need to reply to, and say, "Per this note, I think we should reset this password." Right. So that's one way, one really cool feature that it has. Another thing is what you can do. The last option that you see here is create a task. So if I click on this, it will add it to my tasks and I can modify it, add the due date, and so on so quickly from within that email that I received. All right. Um, I know we're on time. I have like 10, 15 more features that I wanted to show, but unfortunately, I ran out of time. I think I covered some of the top ones that I wanted to talk about. Maybe one last thing, really quick, as we're here, is on the left hand side, you can go to your OneDrive easily, Viva, and your to do. But there's also this the files section. I really love this because it can tell you exactly which emails were sent to you and who sent them, and they had attachments. I always lose my attachments, but when I go to the web, in a click of a button, I can navigate to them. I can see my sent emails that had files and any
But
deleted emails that had files and so on.
this entire presentation was worth it for that for that one tip. You did a lot of amazing tips, but that one just blew my mind because I'm
Yeah.
always trying to hunt down that quote I sent or that document someone sent me. So is this just in the web app?
Yeah, this is available, I believe, on the client as well, but it's not as intuitive. And a lot of those things, you see how quickly I'm navigating between them. If I was doing the same demo on the client side, then I would have been, it takes a lot of time.
That's
The
gold.
way you can get to it, I think, is you have to go to the search and then in the client, and then on top, you search has attachments, and then we'll show you everything that has attachments. So you need to play a little bit with the search bar on top to filter everything you need. I'm not saying the client is not powerful, but I really want to emphasize how really easy and simple it is to use the web version.
Nice. That is a really good last tip. Well, I'm going to let the guys back in. We'll get some questions. Is there anything else you wanted to share here on the screen? Or
No,
should I
I'm
remove
good.
it?
I
Okay, so
mean,
I'll remove the screen.
I can go over a lot more things, but I
Yeah.
think it's good to see if there are some more questions in the last few minutes we have.
Surprise, everybody. I let you back in. That was great, Kamal. Everyone that's here, really appreciate it. We do have a couple questions real quick. Keith Steverson said, can you tell us more about the new Outlook feature adding @name in the email?
Adding,
It was @name in the email. I think he might mean like you can tag people in the email,
yeah,
kind of how you
yeah.
do in Teams.
Yeah, you can do this on both the client and the web version. You just click on the app mention. That's one of the last things I showed, and you can tag the individual. I genuinely, I use it in a lot of scenarios where someone, I don't know if they go by a nickname, their first or last name. So instead of butchering the name, or coming up with my own name, I just say out and I mention them. You can
Mm-hmm.
even delete the last name. So once you hit the out, if the organization they do last name comma first name, just click in the middle and you can delete the last name with the comma and space, and you can keep only the first name. So that's another trick that you can just make it look very short and simple rather than the whole email. So for you, Tahir Hamid, it would be probably the whole name, but I can just hover over it and delete your last name. I'm only tagging you still, but it's showing just the first name.
Nice. Solid. And then Peter Pham says, does undo feature sync to client's setting?
No,
No. Okay.
this is only on the web. If you send an email from the client side, you're screwed. You need to try to what was it? There's a feature in the file section where you request to withdraw the email. I forgot the name now. I'm blanking on it. Let me see file. But after you send an email, you can request it back or something. It never
Yeah,
worked for me.
I did a tech tip on that, and I forget the name of it too.
Yeah, it never worked for me. So
Recall.
I never recall.
Recall.
It
Yeah.
just doesn't work, and it's embarrassing. The end user is gonna get, come on, try to recall your email. I'm like, oh, yeah, I should have paid attention, but that's why I like the web. The web also has the autocorrect, which is awesome. But I also use Grammarly extension. It works also Grammarly because it's on the web. So a lot of your browser extension will work because they're there. I am also a Buckeye, Ohio State Buckeye. So in November, there's an extension that crosses out all the M's in my browser because we don't like the Michigan. So I like it because I can use it, and all my emails that have M or the word Michigan, it gets crossed in red. So
That's so
there's cool
funny.
things that you can still do because you're on the web. You can customize things. I like customizing things. I don't want Microsoft to control everything I do. That's why I'm really, out of everyone you'll probably talk to, I'm the most passionate about the web app, the Outlook web app.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't think it gets enough attention, so it's cool to give it a
Yeah.
little more attention today. Well, I think that was all the questions. Kamal, once again, I've learned a lot. I hope that people, the individuals here today have learned a lot, and we'll go ahead and wrap this thing up. Everybody that's here, make sure to visit the IT provider that um, invited you. On their website. There is a training tab. There's a Train My Team tab. There's an upcoming webinars tab. So make sure to check out all the upcoming webinars coming out. We're usually We usually have the next 3-6 months scheduled out. And we usually get awesome people like Kamal on. So really appreciate y'all being here today. Hope you learned something, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one. If you need help with any of this, of course, you can reach out to the provider that you're either a client of or part of their community. So thank you so much, Kamal. Appreciate it again, and we'll see you all on the next one.
Awesome. See you next time.
All right, thanks everybody.